I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to the Monday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. Today is Monday, April 18th, 2022. Today we talk with community partners about issues in community of community. The proposition is that we must share and raise our voices, speak our interests, our needs, our desires, our truth to each other, to power, and to the world. That we are the foundation for the creation of the beloved community, and that there's value in us communicating, sharing, being with each other. I'm always thankful to my partner and colleague, Diana Hawkins of Hawthorne Neighborhood Council, and Dee Phillips. Diana and Dee, thank you for being here and being part of this. We reach out to other leaders of other neighborhood organizations, inviting them to join. If you are with one of the 80 or so neighborhood organizations in Twin Cities or the legacy institutions in our communities, we invite you to participate. We also have used this Monday session in the last election cycle as a way to focus on political, civic engagement issues, and we intend to do the same. We've got a very important election coming up in November of this year. So we're reaching out to candidates for office, primarily at the legislature, inviting them to show up and to present their case. And we will entertain and invite any candidacy to be part of the program on a regular basis between now and towards and through the election. What's the mission? We want to make sure that our voices are heard, and that people that would serve us have a chance to speak directly in this public platform, our social media platform, and in our newspaper, Inside News. And so we proceed with the intent of ensuring that our voices matter. Diana, before we introduce our guest, Hassan Quais, I may be saying it wrong, you'll correct me, anything new over at Hawthorne?
I just want to remind everyone this Friday we are going to have the coalition meeting. We're going to talk about My Strength, My Health, My Health, the survey tool that we have updated since we did the COVID-19. It's a great app, so I'm just encouraging everyone to join in this Friday from 11 to noon. You can email dhawkins@hncmpls.org for the link.
Okay, Dee, any ideas or thoughts you want to share? Okay, a smile and a nod, no. Okay, great. Well, listen, let's begin. And I want to introduce Hassan. He told me how to say it. Let's see, Kai. Is that it? Is Kai or Kwai? Kai.
Kais.
Kais.
Just
Okay.
got to finish it off.
Close. Okay, great. Well, it takes me 2 or 3 times now. I have it down. Hassan Kais. He is the founder and executive director of Black Army Brigade. What an interesting name. And he and they are proposing a youth research task force to do research and evaluation of Minnesota supportive housing services, particularly as regards to the experience of young people, the lived experiences in particular. Well, Hassan, let me have you introduce yourself again. Thank you for being here. I hope you had a good holiday, and talk about both, first of all, the organization, Black Army Brigade. I love the name. Why that name? What's the name imply? What does it say? What does it signify? What is the intent of choosing and presenting that name as a identifier of the work that you do?
For sure. Thanks for having me back, Al. And thanks for always, giving community voice a platform. So a little bit of background about me. My name is Hassan Sadiq. I'm known in the community as Bossman Kais. I founded Black Army Brigade about 5 years after high school. I graduated from Robbinsdale Armstrong. born and raised here in Upper Willard Hay. And I had a lot of experiences navigating and being supported by different supportive services and programs that were being offered through the Northside community. And those experiences developed a kind of leadership within me that always kind of really stuck. And I've always been around different powerhouses in the community, direct family and extended, and chosen family, right? Have all been very instrumental in the overall journey that has brought me to this moment. And now, I'm able to show up in community as an advocate. I'm able to show up as someone with lived experiences to be able to connect in a peer supportive way, and to help, identify language and in a way that really translates, in its rawest form, some of the challenges that our progressive system of status quo programs and services uh, have in terms of outcomes, and then the impact on the individual's um, capacity development process through these experiences. So I I've developed I developed the Black Army Brigade based off of a bunch of different experiences and fellowship, leadership programs. I was part of Emerge's Build program with Connie Rhodes. I also participated. I think I told you guys about this last time, and Step Up for about 4 years. Since the age of 12. So all what I'm saying is all of these programs help to develop what the public experiences as Black Army Brigade, a leadership development, civic engagement organization that develops freedom fighters. And we do so through our 3-pillar programs, which are the Bridging Intergenerational Gaps in Leadership series, which is an intergenerational dialogue between community leaders and industry leaders, professionals, with the Youth and Young Professional Agency of the community. Then we also developed a fellowship, very unique in its formation, that compensates 5 young Black folks over the course of a 10-week or 10-module program workshop, that immerses them in a creative, explorative space that develops different individual qualities and focuses on what they see as their brand. So it's a juxtaposition between brand development, creative exploration, and civic engagement. And we pay you $200 a month. And you're supposed to develop a budget that you keep track of, and you submit that budget monthly with our community partners. We've been looking at different credit recovery and building options to support that, as well as our 3rd pillar program, which is our take on reducing intercommunal gun violence by providing a non-traditional point of access to the prerequisite educational trainings as required by Minnesota State Statute 624 to be able to legally attain and possess a firearm, as well as diving deeper into different aspects of what community safety really means, and how to show up responsibly as an engaged community member who cares about the safety of the others in your community. And I hope that gives you a kind of good sense of who I am. I recently, I took the fellowship route as opposed to traditional education, and I talked a little bit about that last time. So yeah, that's who I am. I'm super happy to be here and talk about, the action that we're in, and the ways that we're activating and engaging community in an empowering way, specifically the youth.
Great. Well, let's keep it rolling. This is a platform for our guests to share their value proposition, their vision, their work, and the floor is yours. So you wanted to talk about. I wanted you to talk about, and you're going to talk about the supportive housing services report card that you are proposing. I think you've got a PowerPoint that you want to share. If you want to do that now or introduce it first, how do you want to proceed?
Yeah, if you could just pull up the loading screen, I'll start from the loading screen, give you guys a little bit of backstory. So, the backstory is.
Can you see it? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So the youth research task. Oh,
hold on.
Research. Okay. Let me know.
I'm trying to make sure I have the screen up the right way. I think I still have. Yeah, it's up okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So the Youth Research Task Force of Black Army Brigade has developed the process needed to assess the effectiveness of current supportive housing program outcomes. And as a group of concerned Black young professionals who care deeply about the racial equity and housing stability and justice for Black youth, we wanted to create a cultural stewardship report card. This cultural stewardship report card will assess and provide recommendations that improve the outcomes of supportive housing service providers. That is the AONs, the PPLs, the youth links, the everywhere that deals in some aspect of supportive housing and providing services and programs. So we prepared a proposal for the commission of a research and evaluation study that's going to be coordinated by a steering collaborative of Black youth, all who share lived experiences, accessing, applying, and being sustained, whether short-term or long-term, on supportive housing services and programs, along with other key advisors. We've acquired and secured the commitment of a very well-known principal evaluator, and we'll talk a little bit more about them a little later. But we'll convene over multiple occasions over the next year to develop this product. The qualitative and quantitative study will be formed to examine the tools, the access to information, and the resources that are currently being offered through the existing supportive housing services to Black and ethnically diverse youth within our community. We believe that it is important to empower an independent cohort of the intergenerational community members to facilitate this examination and provide recommendations that improve the effectiveness of short-term and long-term housing programs and their impact on clients' confidence and self-advocacy and self-sufficiency at the point of transition. You could go to the next slide. And I kind of talked about my organization already a little bit, but this is basically our mission statement and about us. We are a cultural development organization. You could go to the next slide, Al.
I think you can control the slide, maybe. I think it's your screen, yeah.
Okay.
Are you doing it or am I doing it?
I just did that one.
Okay, I think you can control the slide. Go ahead.
For sure. I told you guys a little bit about the organization already. We are a cultural development organization that provides leadership, that provides culturally responsive access to different civic education programs, that develops leadership's qualities and skills to build individual capacity for foundational Black American youth between the ages of 18 and 30 through our focused strategy of buffering gaps in intergenerational community leadership with alternative and non-traditional opportunities. To simply put, we want to know what are the outcomes in comparisons to the service providing organization's income. We believe that it is essential to know if the current supportive housing services are developing self-sufficient, confident, community members who will be engaged and know how to navigate the supportive service landscape to be on their own pathways towards long-term housing stability and economic engagement. So the Youth Research Task Force leading the effort are concerned young people who have and are near the age of being aged out of supportive housing services from youth serving agencies within the Twin Cities metropolitan area. So no, we're not just focused on Hennepin County. We're also in our scope have Ramsey County, and we've already secured Ujamaa Place as a participating support organization to help us with this study once it moves into the second phase. We would work in collaboration with the community and different agencies in order to engage additional youth who are current program participants. And when the study is moved to the second phase, we'd invite St. Paul agencies as well who are similar in scope. All right. So I see now that I did give you guys older version, but it's still really great. So the study will include our core team. Core stands for Community Organizing Reform Evaluations. This study will include an evaluation of supplemental programs that clients are being offered throughout the duration of their services that lead to long-term financial wellness and readiness for home ownership. This study will be done in partnership with an evaluation specialist who has the expertise in evidence-based practices and whose approach is grounded in positive youth development, trauma-informed care, and healing-centered engagement. This principal evaluator is Dr. Brittany Lewis of Research in Action, who will be designing the study as we engage in this initiative. And we believe that this type of study that's led by a group of Black youth and young professionals within an intergenerational cohort has not been done in the supportive service sector in the entire state of Minnesota. So the Youth Research Task Force has selected that principal evaluator who is recognized and accredited evidence-based developmental evaluation. She is also recognized by her professional peers. She will design this study according to recognized research best practices and standards of the field. And the group of Black youth will be made up of 5 young people who have lived experiences accessing the supportive housing services and programs within the last 5 years. What makes this initiative very unique is that they will receive apprenticeship statuses as research analysts and specialized in evaluative research development, interviewing for research for the duration of the study. This will empower the selected youth with direct hands-on training in a meaningful manner that equips them with the necessary access to information and resources through this transformative experience.
Do you want to change the PowerPoint, or is this
May I do
okay?
that real quick?
Yeah, sure,
Y'all
no
know
problem.
this
Yeah,
is
just go
raw.
ahead.
This is
Let's
in real
you
time.
can take this one down, or I'm not sure how we did it. I'll take it off the screen, and you can reload and try to share it again. In the meantime, let me introduce my colleague and our friend, Jonathan Palmer. Jonathan Palmer is the executive director of Hallie Q. Brown Community Center in St. Paul, and one of the pillar legacy institutions in community. And I'm so glad that he was able to join us today, and hopefully will be with us regularly or as often as the schedule permits. And if he's not someone representing the organization, he's also joining us on Thursdays when I have a leadership group of friends who are from around the country focusing on vision, on challenge, on opportunity, on analysis, on creating a narrative that comes from within our culture and our sensibility of our obligation and duty to be stewards of creation. It's a serious conversation. I invite you all to check it out and to be part of it. And by the way, we're doing these programs 5 days a week at 1 o'clock every day. So Monday is this focus on neighborhoods. I call this in the description a governance at the neighborhood level discussion. And the premise is that this is where it all begins, when neighbors get together and talk to each other and organize with each other and for each other and present and press their ideas and issues to the elected and governmental officials, and understand and know and use their power to elect or unelect officials. So it's a fun way, a good way to explore community. Hassan, tell me when you got the new one ready to share.
For sure, it's processing at the moment.
Okay.
And I just want to say hello to my good friend, Mr. Jonathan, and let him know you have been in my prayers through your journey and you look well, sir.
Thank you very much, Diane. I really appreciate that. The eyebrows have come back, as you can see. So it is. I'm really very happy. So for those that don't know, I got diagnosed with cancer in September, and it was metastatic cancer that had returned and was partially wrapped around my thoracic aorta and would have killed me in 3 months if we hadn't done chemotherapy. So I'm past the chemotherapy, now in remission. So the prayers worked, and I appreciate that. And we're keeping going on.
There we go. There we go. Well, Jonathan, we're so glad that you're here, and thank you for being here. Someone in the chat earlier talked about the same thing at early on. I'm not sure if that person is still here or not. Faith Benjamin. Faith, if you're there still, there's part of your comment here, but a dot, dot, dot at the end. So if you want to, before the hour is over, join this conversation and talk about your story, we'd be glad to. I don't know if you all able to see that comment from Faith Benjamin. Maybe you can't see it. Maybe I've got to launch it separately. I'm not sure. But I'm speaking to you, Faith Benjamin. Thank you for being here and telling your story about surviving cancer. And it's an important conversation. And all the best to you. Hassan, let me come back to you. Jonathan, any comments so far? I met Hassan Quace maybe a couple of months ago. He was on this program. I can tell you that he's an impressive young man, organized, a thinker, and a doer. And I've invited him to come as often as he'd like to. I am so impressed with what seems to me to be an intensity, an intentionality, and a commitment and a belief that again, his voice and the voice of his peers is important, and that they have an obligation and a duty to create change that supports their sensibility of what being human is across the board. And Hassan, if I'm saying that wrong, you let me know, but that's my impression of you. And I thank you for the energy that you're bringing. But Jonathan, anything that you can say to young people as we listen to Hassan?
Well, one, I was just browsing the website, and it's very impressive. And so I'm really excited to hear more about what Hassan and his team are doing, because they look very, like you said, very intentional, very direct, moving in a direction that is carrying the torch forward as our elders begin to pass that on. So I really like that. And for anybody young who's out there, this is the way to get engaged, that this is your world and your future. So find the projects that interest you, the initiatives that need to be taken care of, just as Simon and his team are doing, to go ahead and make sure that the world is working for us and is understanding the changes that need to happen so that we have equity and equality.
I especially like that your team includes the expertise of Dr. Brittany Lewis. Dr. Lewis is best in class, world class. She's phenomenal. And I hope she hears this. And if she doesn't, let her know I said so. But she represents world class, best in class scholarship, intellectual integrity, and professional excellence. She's got a track record, but she's also free. She's not bound to what I call the social structure or white supremacist thought. She is truly, genuinely revolutionary. I've heard the term expressed differently. Revolutionary is loaded, but I've heard the term resolutionary. She's focused on resolutions, solving problems, and using the tools of data and research to deliver solutions to our people. And too often, we have been the subjects of and victims of somebody else's collection of data on us, about us, that they use to maintain their privilege and our disadvantage. And what we and you have demonstrated, particularly through the work of leaders, scholars, intellectuals like Dr. Brittany Lewis, is that we own this technology, this knowledge, and this these ways of looking at data and the world as well. And we can form conclusions that are substantially different from those that are being presented by a social structure that is negative towards our experience and towards our Black and brown bodies, our humanity. So let's go from there. I'm going to load the PowerPoint back up and turn the microphone back over to you, Brother Hassan.
I appreciate it.
And if anybody wants to jump in, Diana, D, Jonathan, just, this is informal and we're here learning together. So jump in when you need to, and Hassan will appreciate that as well.
Definitely. Okay. Hearing none. So I did just want to kind of go back over, and if y'all use Microsoft PowerPoint and Google Slides, I'm sure you guys will recognize it's saved a little differently than it was looking in its presentation, but this is the information. My forward apologies for its format, but
no problem.
Yep. So I think we left off talking about the core team community organizing reform evaluations. This is going to be a study that's led by Black and ethnically diverse youth who have and are accessing supportive services and programs within the last 5 years. I finally put myself into something as a role, so I'm on a budget finally. And I'll tell you more about the budget a little later as the Youth Lead Evaluation Associate. And there'll be some different, I'll break down the roles when I get to that slide. We also will have a systems expert who is our community study guide. We've also been able to secure a phenomenal, well-respected former executive director in Dr. Heather Hughesby, former ED of YouthLink. Has a legacy of work championing the positive youth development and creating opportunities through the Youth Opportunity Center over at YouthLink. So we are extremely grateful to have her on. This is one of the slides that was missing, and I wanted to give you guys an example of what that cultural stewardship report card would look like. So as you see, we do have A to F scaling system, and this will be kind of refined and developed through the evaluation team trainings that the youth will be guided through from the guidance of Dr. Brittany Lewis's esteemed team of professionals. So from an A to F, you got incomplete, which is there's non-existing infrastructure. In the D range, they're developing, they're aware of it, but it's not necessarily fully intact. At a C level, they have some things that are culturally responsive to some of the systemic issues. At a B level, they are proficient, they are ahead of it, they are, addressing it, right? And at an A level, they are exceeding the assignment, they overstand the assignment. And this is just to give a little bit of context to how we would develop that grading scale of the existing supportive services and programs, and then where that recommendation comes in and how that's different, right? So we'll be grading what exists, and then we'll be providing recommendations after research and evaluation on program suggestions and policy. So we will use a, sorry, give me a second. We will use a youth participatory action research model to conduct this initiative and produce this evidence-based results. For those who do not know, youth participatory action research project is an innovative approach to positive youth and community development that's rooted in social justice principles. And to give a little bit more context, there has been some history and some traction around a type of study. Yo, this is really bad. I'm sorry, y'all.
Well, you if you don't want to have the screen, you can just walk through it and talk it. That's okay.
Yeah, I'll keep the screen up.
Okay.
So back in 2018 and 19, apprentices from Juxtaposition Arts Tactical Urbanism Lab conducted the research for a partnership project with Cura, with funding from Youth Prize. And what they did was they formulated this user-based experience that simulated through an immersive way different for lack of better terms, different direct engagement program officers that sorry, I'm trying to get back here to you guys.
No, I closed that out. I have a copy of that presentation on my screen. I'm gonna see if I can share it, but you can keep talking about it.
Okay. So the project culminated in the creation of an empathy building simulation for use and training resource navigators and those who are employed to direct others in crisis to different resources. And so I brought this slide up to say that this isn't necessarily something that would have to be developed from scratch. And, you know, a lot of people like to get stagnated on that idea. Well, where is it done before? We have an example right here in the social service runaround. And I think that this beautifully ties into the work that we will be doing with a specific focus on the scattered site housing options and how that that program model helps to develop, or does it do more damage to the individuals who are using those services? Next slide would be.
Yeah, I tried to load it from my computer as well, but it was still the same flawed display, and it's a distraction. So just walk us through. Okay. Just talk it through.
Oh, yep. So we do have a timeline that goes from August of this year through July of next year. And we hope to be able to use the months of May and June and July to do some recruitment for that group or cohort of young Black youth research analysts. So from August to about October, we'll go into this phase of kicking off where we'll collect data and do some observations, and we'll meet with the participating organizations. So to date, we have secured YouthLink for Hennepin County and Ujamaa Place for Ramsey County. And what we'll be doing is we'll be meeting with their teams, collecting some data that gives us a initial understanding as we begin to develop how we grade using a grading scale. During that time, we'll also go through a host of evaluation team trainings, because as I mentioned at the top, this is about the youth specifically developing confidence and skills in research, qualitative research assessments. From November through January of November of this year to January of 2023, we'll get into the phase of assessment. Well, we begin to analyze the data that we've collected. We'll begin to form evaluations on that, and we'll begin to also engage about 225 individuals in different ways through participatory interview surveys. Some of that might be in a focus group. Some of that might be in a one-on-one setting. From February through April of 2023, we begin to grade the assessments and the data that we have. And at that time, we'll begin to develop program suggestions and policy recommendations to alleviate some of the challenges identified with some of the existing services, and where there is opportunity to develop culturally responsive programs that create transformative experiences and opportunities for the youth who are in the program, so that they are not getting stuck or dependent on, you know, their service benefits, right? And then we'll begin to talk about how we're going to disseminate those reports, and we'll disseminate them through a multifaceted group of diverse stakeholders, networks, and other platforms, including social media. But in May through July, we will begin to publicize that cultural stewardship report card and our policy recommendations. And then there'll be a time for the participating organizations to kind of give feedback about how their experience was, what they are able and willing to implement from our recommendations and suggestions. How are they going to improve their lettered grade in different domains, whether that be in the transition planning process or the, whatever you name it, right? If you know that system, we're going to try to grade it really comprehensively and thoroughly. Then big goal, by the end of this pilot study design, we'll have partnership with Wilder Research or Wilder Public Policy to develop what that bill language will be, to be on a biennial schedule, and making sure that every other year, all of the programs, service providing program agencies are responsive to the cultural changes of that time, because being a youth that's homeless in 2015 is not the same as being a youth that's homeless post-COVID, right? And we got to stop using these cookie cutter models that really do a lot more damage than it does developing individual capacity, right? And that's the purpose of the study, to identify how are they engaging in a collaborative or a meaningful partnership with communities to provide access and non-traditional opportunities. Sorry, I'm still going through the slides as I'm reading through it. So the study is going to clearly define pretty much 4 things: what ethnically diverse young people identify with as needs and supportive housing services to ensure other ethnically diverse youth are being equipped with opportunities to develop confidence in self-advocacy, characteristics of self-sufficiency, and long-term stability, including home ownership and entrepreneurial thinking. We also want to uncover how participating organizations integrate racial equity and social justice in their performance targets as a development priority prior to initiating their exit process. Quantitatively, we want to know what is the number of ethnically diverse young people with access to resources and knowledge at the time of transitioning to aftercare services who are self-sufficient. And what does that mean, right? And then finally, in its final form, it will tell us from the lens of ethnically diverse youth, what are the solutions to the identified gaps in access to opportunity and supplemental program needs. So our intent is to understand and find solutions to the following, but we will also work with the selected principal evaluator to solidify the core questions that get to the focus of the study. What are the retention rates of Black youth in housing programs? What is the attrition rate or turnover rate of supportive staff? And what impact does that have on the youth? So with the history of racial segregation by use of redlining in this state to prevent fair and equitable housing options and economic engagement options, how are the supportive housing interventions disrupting or abating the legacy of racial segregation today? And then there's a budget slide, and really the big numbers are we want to find some support, and I have no formal training, so a lot of this is learning as I go and developing individual relationships with different folks who are knowledgeable about different parts of this overall development, which is why we work with accredited and professional folks. But we have a budget for 5 youth research analysts who will receive apprenticeship during this internship opportunity to individually receive $15,000 a piece for the duration of this study. So that'll give them a basic income or basic needs package of about $1,250 monthly. Altogether, that's about $75,000. And then for myself to be able to fully lean into this work and be present, I put myself into the budget for $35,000. Our principal evaluation team will be secured for a grand sum of $90,000, and that provides us access to them as our principal evaluator. They will facilitate and design the different evaluation team trainings that helps us to, not only identify different resolutions, but gives us the hands-on training to be, our own independent researchers. Then we have our system study guide, Dr. Heather Hughesby, who will help be a support to the youth research evaluation lead and just maintaining the project managerial duties. Also as an external lens on the inside, narrating the development process, right? So Dr. Brittany Lewis will be doing the hands-on, study design, while Dr. Heather will be talking about how is that study design as a outside narrative, just observing and participating and supporting as they are able to. And then, we believe that it is important to generously compensate the 225 individuals that we intend to engage in participatory interviews. So each individual interview will be compensated with a $100 stipend of some sort. So that brings us to about $250,000 research proposal. And that's, pretty much it. And at this time, we are looking for community partnerships to be able to come back on, conversations with Al monthly and keep you updated on, the progress of this study, working with different philanthropic communities to make sure that this is an independently empowered study that has its collaborative partnership with county agency where this will live, right? Speaking of the election cycle, this is a county agency department, so, identifying how we can amplify those different aspects of why this is so urgent and why is it so timely and culturally responsive.
Let me jump in here and ask if Jonathan or Diana have any comments or questions, observations. I think it was a great presentation. Hopefully this was a good practice session for you to make the presentation. And that's always good to put your ideas in front of people and put them public so that you can get the feedback you need and then keep improving your work and challenging or testing yourself and your vision. But Jonathan, Diana, any comments and thoughts? You are seasoned service and community builders. What's your impression of what you've heard and seen so far? Diana, you first, and then Jonathan.
I'm gonna be nice and let my good friend Mr. Jonathan go because me and Hassan we're going to talk anyway. So let's see what Mr. Jonathan has to say.
Okay, all right.
Oh, thank you, Diana. First of all, brother, I think this is really good and really powerful. I think you've got some good pieces in there. I think just what you're talking about, reaching out for partnerships, is a great way to help get yourselves moving in the direction. I came in a little late, so did you all just start recently, a couple of years ago?
The Black Army Brigade has been operational for the last 2 years.
Okay.
We've been in development for the last 7, and to the point where we are now.
Gotcha. And is this your first grant that you're doing?
Oh no, I've
okay.
You've been the non-tradition, like I'm very I am the product, right? Almost. Right. I've had a really different journey towards grant writing. I'm
Talk about that. Talk about it. We'll tell us that story.
Well, I mean, I started grant writing by literally going to different like grant writing seminars and pop-up shops, whatever, not pop-up shops, but like, conversations, because I never went the traditional education route, or I did, and then I screwed that up pretty bad. But so I caught myself and was like, okay, how do I get money for these dope ideas? And at the time I was going to Neon, and they were like, well, what you got is really a social service, and you're trying to mask it as a LLC. And so I'm like, okay, so what do I need? And they're like, for the type of work you're talking about, you're going to need some grants. So I just started going to different grant writing shops, and then I put in a couple applications, got some positive responses, and now we're about $250,000 later.
Have you done any work with Otto Bremer Foundation?
I'm not sure. No, I don't.
I would check them out. They usually have a real focus towards capacity building. And so that would be one that would help you build up your team, help you build up the structure inside. And you're based in Minneapolis, right?
Yes. And what was that foundation name?
Otto Bremer, OTTOBREMER.org is the foundation. And they've done a lot with community-based organizations in terms of, like I said, the capacity building. I'd also take a look over at the Minneapolis Foundation and see what opportunities those have as well. It's tough getting stuff off the ground, but you seem really organized. You seem really to have a passion for it, and that's exactly what you need to be successful around this. So just keep going in the direction you're going.
Thank you.
So, Diana, you can jump in now, or I'll ask some questions, either one. I'll proceed with the journalist hat, with the reporter's hat, Hassan. So I love what you are presenting. I want you to talk about the end game. I mean, so you've organized this energy, strategy, and objective, but toward what end? How do you define what success is?
So success is appropriating financial support to organizations that are culturally responsive and have the data to prove that their programs provide this non-traditional alternative opportunity or development towards opportunity that produces non-traditional outcomes. So the end product of this study, or this report card, is going to talk directly to county supportive services, right? Not directly to the agencies themselves, but to the county about the effectiveness of the agencies that they are currently funding, and what are those outcomes. So then how to improve those. We get into the ABCs, right? Intake, great. So what they would call crisis intervention. Then you have the next phase, before aftercare, which is how are we like stabilizing them out of this crisis? So we intervened. Now we're talking about stabilize. Sorry, let me turn back on my light. Now, how do we, get them? How are we responding to what they are saying their needs are, in order to be in a place where they are self-sufficient? Because everything is person-centered. We need to kind of, in a way, not get lost in their dialogue, but responding appropriately in a way that they understand, hey, this agency here needs more improvement that leads to better outcomes.
So what if your scorecard points out structural or systemic lack of capability, lack of success, inability of major existing strategies. Yeah. So let me tell you the reason for the question. Sometimes I feel like that I've used this phrase, we get the misery, they get the money.
Mm-hmm.
Black people get assigned and corralled and pushed to the margin of misery, and systems and structures that, from my point of view, I describe as products of white supremacist thought. Not accidental, but intentional, programmed marginalization of our people means that they create and maintain a pool of poverty that provides employment and jobs for them. We get the misery, they get the money. And here's what I'm speaking from. I'm reading, I've been sharing this every day. I recommend this to you, and Jonathan's reading it now too. But this book called Whiteness in Plain View. And it's written by it's published by Minnesota Historical Society Press, and written by Chad Montree, who's a professor in the history department at the University of Massachusetts Lowell. And there's one paragraph on the cover that's striking, but it talks about the environment that we're operating in. And sometimes the people that have managed the affairs of state so far feel like they've been doing okay. And if populations or portions of the community continually fail, fall behind, are less productive, or keep experiencing intergenerational poverty and the like, it's their fault, not the fault of the state. And so we get both blame and we get to keep the misery. They keep bringing people from, all over Minnesota to both marvel at the problem, but to make sure it stays in place because it creates jobs for them. So let me just read this paragraph. It says, Whiteness in Plain View examines the ways white residents across Minnesota acted to intimidate, control, remove, and keep out African Americans over the course of the 19th and 20th centuries. Their methods ranged from anonymous threats, vandalism, mob violence, to restrictive housing covenants, realtor deceit, and mortgage discrimination. And they were aided by local, state, and federal government agencies, as well as openly complicit public officials. What they did was not an anomaly or aberration in some particular place or passing moment, but rather common and continuous. Chapter by chapter, the book shows that Minnesota's overwhelming whiteness is neither accidental nor incidental, and the racial exclusion's legacy is very much woven into the state's contemporary politics, economy, and culture. And so what excites me about what you're doing, Brother Hassan, is that you're creating a scorecard. And I think the threat of the core scorecard is that it will hold even the established organizations to account, in a way that's comparative and it's public. And I think that's a powerful tool. I think if we're using, it means that we are beginning to use the tools of data collection, analysis, and reporting, and publishing the data to let our people and everybody know that what has been happening is what it is, improper, and really contrary to the stated aims and goals of our state and of our society. And so unless we are able to deliver a true analysis, as you're proposing to do, with the rate card that is originating from the point of view of our people, the people who have the lived experiences of being in our black and brown skins, right, in Minnesota, in the context of ongoing and historical and pervasive disadvantage making by the social structure towards us. if we move in that direction, it's a revolutionary idea, I think, and I think it's a good one. And so that's why I ask you, towards what end? I know that your tone and your voice reflect, this might not be the right word, but conciliatory or a non-accusatory approach. I don't hear you saying up against the wall, you know, or anything that is attacking individuals and even other cultures. But necessarily, if you present the truth of our culture, that in itself is an indictment of the historicity of violence against us by cultures outside of us. What are your thoughts?
So I'll bring up the story.
And Jonathan, am I okay with this train of thought, Jonathan? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So one thing I want you guys, and you guys can quote me, racism isn't the same as it was, say, 20 years ago or even 40 years ago, right? You're not going to be denied access to an establishment that is in public space, right?
I don't know about that, but go ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, yeah, to some level or degree. But there is a new form of racism, and I like to call it process-based racism or procedural, right? Where there, and I talked a little bit about it in our last opportunity, but I like to think of it like this. So I bring up this story about being on a ride or die team, part of Hennepin County's national initiative towards ending youth homelessness. And I sat in the room as a youth advocate with my Urban League Twin Cities Young Professionals hat on, while being a client of this said agency, talking about not individualizing, right? And on that agency's core team, what they call the ride or die team, there was a lot of people that looked like this makeup of this group right here, right? And we were intellectually, excuse the vulgarness, but intellectually masturbating around resolutions that would reduce the retention of youth who access different programs for the same services, meaning they get denied here, so they go across the river and now they're over here at Booth Brown or Ujama, right? And after a time they get out of that program and now they're back over here. So now, how do we reduce that so that this experience is really a short-term experience? And I had asked a simple question, and I think I just reposted it on my Facebook, how many of us, this was a group that was made up of it was supposed to be made up of 51% youth, but in reality, it was about maybe 2 of us and 8 of them. Mm-hmm. And but they got the national support from the initiative to do it. And I had asked, how many of you established industry professionals are willing to name that the only thing that's really in the preventing really innovative, revolutionary social support systems and services in terms of delivery here is your jobs, right? And there was a long pause, right? And one lady who did not look like us per se voiced, well, it depends on how you want to call us out, because they understood what I was saying effectively was we are unable to really have traction because you guys are housed in the Urban League's building, looping it back to why I brought up being a YP advocacy chair, with 2 offices. You guys established a tenants' rights center right here in the Urban League, but you guys have no communication with their first-time home buyer programs or their individual financial capabilities and individual development programs. So as someone who is knowledgeable about those because I am currently accessing them, which is why I'm able to, kind of communicate in this way. Why is there no communication there? And this is, you guys are housed there. You guys have 2 offices that are active, and you guys claim it's the Tenants' Rights Center. So where's and they begin to name me as a problem.
So what was the composition of the Tenants' Rights Center organization staff, for example, and what was their strategy? I mean, how did they reflect or demonstrate either inclusion or being part of the solution side of the equation, not the external solution provider?
If I understand what you're asking, and I might ask you to ask it again if I don't get to it, I would just say we would have to ask them what that result was, because from my knowledge, after about 2 years of really inactivity, they left out of the Urban League and started this smaller program.
So was that a Black agency organization as well?
Founded by Russell Oscar Reed and the other pro football player. But yeah, they had the offices in the headquarters of Urban League with the Tenant Rights Center, which was supposed to be some hub of information and resources for tenants experiencing different things, like maybe not receiving a rental deposit, or which is very common, especially around when it concerns youth, right? Because most youth don't expect to get anything back, or are they even knowledgeable that that is something that they are entitled to, right? And we like to stay away from the word entitled, especially when in conversations with you. But as a citizen and a tax-paying citizen, there are these rules that are in place for us to be able to receive some return on our investment, right? And they're supposed to take that deposit and put it into some interest compiling account, and you are also supposed to receive that interest also, right? And these are just like a very specific example, right?
The argument behind my question, Hassan, is that we have to also be intentional, that we empower meaning fund, create resources for Black-led, Black-directed, Black employing organizations, and that too often when we even allow Black people to operate or move into the solution-making side of this activity, as you are attempting to do, our society does it both half-heartedly or in ways that intentionally prohibit the emergence and sustainability of the initiative. And therefore, too often our people are held as incapable, lacking in knowledge, lacking in integrity, lacking in all kinds of things that are broad paint brushes that, in a sense, are part of the strategy to continue a public distaste and suspicion of leadership in the Black community, and secondly, to justify the current arrangement. And the current arrangement is one where white people get the money, we get the misery. I'm trying to say that as plain as I can. And I think that our job has to be, my job as a communicator has to be, and as an elder, is to examine that, point it out. That's what I see as the value of the tool. And I think the standard you're talking about is a standard that everybody should be held to. But if we are intentional in deploying a standard tool like the survey, we will discover how those who have provided leadership historically, or provided service in this area historically, meaning the county and the city, how they have fared. So, I mean, if you grade the city, the county, this could be any county, not just Hennepin, not just Ramsey, but if you grade existing government programs and systems and how effectively they have served Black people, Minnesota remains best in the nation. Education, quality of life, all kinds of things. But at the same time, and nevertheless, Black people's experience in Minnesota is diametrically opposite. Minnesota is a wealthy state. Black people in Minnesota, by comparison, are among the least wealthy in the country. And so while there's prosperity in general, there is a lack of prosperity in our community. And it's not, as this article said, an aberration or a one of. It is a process, your word process. It's a strategy, and it's ongoing. So listen, we're out of time, but this is a good conversation. Jonathan and Diana, any final words from the two of you?
Well, I just want to say, Hassan knows that I'm impressed with the work that he does. So we will be, helping him as much as we can.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And I'll just say that keep moving ahead. This is sounding really great, and if we can be of service in any way, just feel free to reach out.
For sure.
And then we'll have you back. I think this is an important conversation, and you threw it out there. It'd be nice to have regular monthly updates. I'm extending the invitation to join us on a monthly basis as this thing develops and unfolds, and we will be with you in trying to create awareness and support engagement in the community and in the marketplace. And, let's make it happen. Hassan, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Al.
All right.
Love, justice, and power to the people.
There we go. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you tomorrow. Tomorrow's program is our live broadcast on KFAI, and we have scheduled the officers, I think the chair and president of the new Independence Bank, which is opening in the next few days. So that'll be an important conversation. Also, our friend, another researcher and organizer, who has the what's it called? And I'm just drawing a blank all of a sudden, my friend's name, but we've got another researcher talking about development, business and economic development strategies for South Minneapolis. And what's cool about it is that we're talking about data, but how do we use research? How do we use our ability to provide analyses and strategies that are measurable and that are transparent? And I think we're on the path. I think that's something we'll just continue to do. So join us tomorrow for the program, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, great programs. Again, on Friday, 11:30, the Northside Urban Coalition, meeting. And we're talking about another research project there as well, right? And so we are moving the ball forward in explaining and promoting our people in the use of research, data-driven decision-making. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you later. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Interesting.
I'm going to go back on the original one I wrote on the brigade, but just a comment, Al, it was too much. It was like really convoluted. I mean, it was just hard to follow. I think it was too packed to understand the step-by-step process that he wants to go through to get the outcomes that he announced.
Okay.
So I'm going to go back to the Facebook.
Okay.
And then go back to the one I originally wrote.
Okay.
But that's what I was feeling in it.
Okay. All right. Cool. All right. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Have a good one.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.